Hello and welcome back to our read through of the entire Bible in the year 2026. We are heading into the third week of February. This week we are finishing Numbers, starting Deuteronomy, so we'll be reading from Numbers chapter 30 to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Now, what happens is where we pick up in the book of Numbers in chapter 30, the Israelites have come out of their wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. They're making their way back to the promised land, and last week we read about how they actually fought some of the kingdoms on the east side of the Jordan River, getting ready to enter into the promised land. And here we pick up, and there's still some issues going on. There's still the kingdom of Midian, which tried to do stuff to them, and God basically says, well, go take vengeance on them. But we get to this point where now they're getting ready to cross over to the promised land. They're getting ready to divide the land according to the 12 tribes. And a couple of the tribes are like, well, hold on a second. We conquered these kingdoms over here, and their land is good. Why don't we just settle here? And so the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh say, can we just stay on this side of the river? And Moses says, well, I guess we can make that work as long as you are willing, all you men, to go and help conquer the rest of the promised land for your brother tribes, for the other tribes. And so we get to there and we start getting this review of everything that's happened up to this point. And it closes, they divide up the land, they get ready to say where everyone's going to go. They make special places for the Levites to stay, because the Levites don't get their own tribal land, but because they are the priestly tribe, they get scattered throughout the land into different cities. And they make find and make rules for, what if a man doesn't have any sons? Well, can his daughters inherit? And they make a rule allowing women to inherit the land also. So then we get to Deuteronomy, and Deuteronomy, that's a big word that basically means the second law, or the retelling of the law. And a large part of it is that point. It goes back through and it recounts everything that has happened to this point. It's Moses' last big series of speeches to the people before they enter the promised land. So all of Deuteronomy takes place basically with the people waiting on the east side of the Jordan River, getting ready to enter into the promised land. And so it talks about, how they had to wander through the wilderness, and then how they came and how they started defeating the peoples on the east side of the Jordan, including King Og of Bashan, who was a giant. And then it reviews some of the rules that were set in place, the 10 commandments and the greatest commandments that the people are to follow. And then it continues to go through different rules that they are supposed to follow, different things that they need to remember, not only as a people, but how those things are going to change once they enter into the promised land and start living in permanent homes instead of tents. And we will conclude this week in chapter 16, which goes back through all of the various holidays and feasts and says, look, we already celebrate these. We've been celebrating them for 40 years since we left Mount Sinai. But now when you go into the land, they're going to be celebrated slightly different. You're going to have to bring your offerings to wherever God's temple is. And so they make the changes necessary to provide for the people once they are living in permanent homes in the promised land, rather than wandering in the desert.